My topic for today is daylight saving time and how harmful it could be to your body and your mind. But first I'm going to talk to you about the origins of it. It first became, it first started in World War I from 1914 to 1918. But the U.S. Officially committed on this role of the daylight saving time in World War II. And on March 31st, 1918, the U.S. officially committed on using daylight savings time. And the President Franklin Roosevelt called daylight savings time wartime because conserving fuel and time and energy during the World War II era. And that's basically the origin of it. But I'm talking about two main topics of the daylight savings time. The first main topic is how it's not very environmental for the Earth and how much money we actually spend on it just because of its existence. Around California and New York City spend about $1.5 million on daylight savings time. And that's a lot of money in this time around. And my main point number two is how the effects it gives us. It affects our mind, our mood and productivity, heart problems, and car accidents. We lose about 40 minutes of sleep whenever daylight saving time begins, which is not much, but it's definitely useful for us. As well, car accidents increase 6% due to daylight saving time, because of either sleep deprivation, because of we either lose sleep, do our jobs, or just because of daylight savings time. Heart problems. In the ages of 65 or either cancer patients, daylight savings time heavily affects the heart. And according to I do not remember the name of whoever said this, but both senior citizens and cancer patients are not immune to basically viruses and all that. Due to that, because the heart is very sensitive to them now than it was when they were young. It heavily affects their cardiac arrest systems, the lungs and liver, which is damages and creates viruses and expands the heart failure and conditions and what it does. And in conclusion, daylight savings time is not really per se good for us due to the effects it gives us to our bodies and minds and mood, and heart problems to those cancer patients and senior citizens of the age of 65 and above. That's pretty much it. Thank you for your time.
so. All right, Antonio, what did you think?
Well, I thought that at first I couldn't tell it was a persuasive speech. I thought at first you were like telling us about daylight. But I feel as you went on, I feel like then as you went on, you kind of addressed that it was persuasive, and you just talking about how daylight saving is bad. You did give a lot of good points, but I think it would be good if you expanded. Because you said how New York and California spend billions of dollars on daylight saving, millions. Just like elaborate on how they spend that much money, or like how daylight saving affects cancer patients. Why is it bad for their hearts? What does it do? But yeah, but you did give a lot of information. I think if you just organized more, it would have been better, right?
All right, well, you picked out two of the things that I thought were a little bit problematic. There's not really any explanation about how California and New York spend $1.5 million on daylight savings time. I don't know if that's, paying people to turn the clocks back, or if it's, leaving the lights on longer. It's not clear to me what that information comes from, what's it's based on, and I don't even know where you get that information. So that's also a little bit of a problem. I would not dismiss $1.5 million personally. If that was, in my bank account, I'd feel pretty good about that. But when you're talking about New York City and California, which California has 40 million people in it, and New York City has 15 million people in it, and I'm going, okay, well, that comes out the pennies per person, and I'm still not sure what it is that we're spending the money on. And that's the big argument here on the cost issue. I found that a little bit underwhelming. The notion that there are potential health harms, I think that needs to be developed a little bit more. Also, there's some information about the loss of sleep. There's some information about problems with sleep deprivation. We had a little bit of problem with the pronunciation of deprivation, and that was one of the examples of a word that we used on pronunciation issues. So I thought it was a little ironic that we still have that problem here. You probably just need to practice a little bit more. And I could see why maybe sleep deprivation would be an issue, except that you say, we lose 40 minutes of sleep. And if the argument is that we never catch up on that sleep, or that we can't afford to lose that, then I need to have more information on that. But I don't really get that. What you do then is talk about how people who are 65 or older or cancer patients are more or less immune to viruses. And I'm going, okay. And how is that related to daylight savings time? I have no idea. There's not an explanation here, so it just feels like it's an out-of-place piece of information. So two of the things that Antonio was mentioning were things that were popping up in my head also. I thought it was a little bit confusing on the history of daylight savings time, because you're kind of conflating World War I and Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt's World War II. World War I is when we adopted it. We stopped using it at the end of World War I, came back and started using it again in World War II. Maybe that's the history that you're talking about. I don't know, like I said, because it was not very clear how it was being presented. I didn't think that there was anything wrong with that. That might have been a better attention device than the one that you had, which is, my topic for today is, and I think I wanted to smack you. I'm sorry. This is like the first thing that we talked about on informative speeches. You don't do that. You want your attention device to be the story, the anecdote, the statistic, the fact, the joke, the action, something that gets us interested. What moves people away from listening to you is, my topic for today is, I understand that that's going to be part of the introduction, but it shouldn't be the attention device, and that I think is a little bit frustrating. All right, thank you.